microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
And now the news in detail. Guyana should be more strategic and offer neighboring Brazil an oil block as part of its border strategy. International Relations Professor Mark Curtin was speaking at the launch of his most recent publication titled Building Bridges in the Amazon, Guyana-Brazil Relations into the 21st Century. He argues in his book that consideration should be given for negotiating with Brazil for an oil block as a country, especially in the changing geopolitical and geoeconomic environment in which the two countries find themselves. In the book, the noted Caribbean academic argues a case for Guyana to give serious consideration to Brazil, which already has experience in the oil and gas sector, is a regional leader and strategic partner, and a major actor in the current geopolitical environment. Professor Curtin says Brazil can serve to counterbalance any aggressive intent in the immediate regional neighborhood and serve as an important player in the stability of the new sector. The former lecturer at the University of Guyana and at the University of the West Indies says providing Brazil with an oil block will be more advantageous. He suggests that Guyana will be better off providing an oil block to that neighboring South American nation rather than making good on promises to India and the United Kingdom. Professor Curtin says there is a role for Guyana and Brazil to collaborate in the area of energy security as well as rice and soya production. A woman has been arrested in connection with her alleged desire to see Guyana's President Irfaan Ali assassinated. Head of the Police Force's Criminal Investigations Department, Assistant Police Commissioner Wendell Blanham said a probe has been launched and the woman has been arrested. Questioned by an unidentified man about what she had said about the president, she said the Guyanese leader needs to be assassinated. In the same video on the social media site TikTok, the Indo-Guyanese woman is heard hurling racial slurs against an Afro-Guyanese man. It is unclear when the woman uttered both categories of offending words, but the video was posted on TikTok on April 9 and up to last night attracted more than 98,000 views. The Guyana Olympic Association (GOA) has condemned the Amateur Athletics Association of Guyana for embarrassing the country at the Carifta Games now underway in the Bahamas. The AAG did not have the money to pay for all of the expenses for Guyana's participation. The GOA says after talks with the Amateur Association, $9 million was provided. The Guyana contingent and officials arrived late by a charter flight, and so no one from the country was at the ceremonial march past at the opening of Carifta. The GOA says, due to the embarrassment, efforts were being made to contact the president of the AAG for a meeting, but he has not replied. The GOA says, after hearing of the issues of mismanagement on the evening of Friday, 7th April, and based on the negative reports emanating from athletes, coaches, the media, social media, and parents, the executive committee and its concerns sent emails and delivered letters to the president and members of the executive committee of the AAG, seeking a meeting at 3 p.m. on Saturday. The GOA says it wants to ascertain if the reports emanating were true, the basis for these developments, and offering the GOA support to assist with any challenges the team may be facing. In the region, Haiti's Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry has described as barbaric acts the murders of 3 police officers on Sunday by members of the Temacak gang during an ambush. The General Directorate of the National Police of Haiti, in extending condolences to the families of the slain police officers, has identified them as Pierre-Paul Dorcelli, Nicholas Robinson, and Mediz Fortier. It said the officers from the Intervention Brigade were cowardly murdered in Thomason, 32, a neighborhood on the mountainside south of Pétionville, where many upper-class citizens reside. The Prime Minister says Haitian police brothers have once again fallen under the murderous bullets of thugs without faith or law. He says his administration renews to the Haitian people its unshakable determination to do everything to achieve the creation of a climate of security and stability in the country, which is too bruised and bereaved. Ms. Henry says the Haitian government is working hard to find a solution. In Antigua, Easter celebrations were cut short for some Otto's Newtown residents after a Sunday afternoon fire got to their homes. Officers at St. John's Fire Station were alerted to a blaze affecting two buildings, both owned by Interceda Lewis, shortly before 1 p.m. on Easter Sunday. Fire Brigade spokesman Inspector Lester Baggett says firefighters extinguished the blaze, but both houses and their contents, which included important documents, were completely destroyed. Inspector Baggett says one building was occupied by Ernestine Lewis along with Jose Lewis and Romeo Valentine, while the second was inhabited by Kiana Benjamin and Rosa Webb. Investigations into the cause of the fire are on the way. Lawyers for Trinidad Gandila are warning Police Commissioner Earl Herwood Christopher of impending legal action over the police's inability to account for 500 rounds of 9mm ammunition seized from his dealership in October 2022. In a letter last week, attorneys Anand Birelal, Kyle Taklal Singh and Asif Hussain Shah, as well as Ananda Ramprasad, told Herwood Christopher it appeared she had lost control of the police service. The missing ammunition belongs to gun dealer Tawfiq Ali. It was seized by police last year as part of an audit into the issuing of firearms users' licenses. Taklal Singh said when Ali's personal ammunition was seized, presumably numerate and literate police officers counted them, verified the quantities made, and made handwritten notations on the dealer's firearm licenses. In January, Ali's attorneys went to court and obtained a court order for the return of the guns and ammunition seized by the police. However, it was discovered that all but the 500 rounds of ammunition were returned days later. Taklal Singh said before the order was finalized, the police were given the opportunity to verify and approve the quantities of ammunition to be returned, and instructions were taken by its attorneys from the officers who previously counted, verified, and recorded the amount of ammunition seized. Taklal Singh said that those officers gave instructions that they would return 1,130 rounds of the 9mm ammunition, along with the other caliber and the quantities. Only 630 rounds were returned. Last month, a source close to the investigation told the Newsday newspaper in Trinidad an officer who was supervising the count of the ammunition incorrectly recorded the amount of 9mm ammunition in each box and then multiplied it to get a total of 1,130 rounds. British Virgin Islands Governor John Rankin has threatened to publish a number of reviews arising out of a commission of inquiry that the current government has withheld from the public for months. The governor said that this will likely be done in the coming days and ahead of elections this month if the government does not publicize the long-delayed reviews. In his most recent quarterly report, Governor Rankin noted that while some progress has been made on the recommendations put forth by the COI, there is still a lot of work to be done. Rankin disclosed that a number of the reviews which were commissioned have now been received, including a review on statutory boards and on the distribution of Crown lands. He reminded residents that the statutory boards review carried out by Jamal Smith was received on December 31, while David Abednego's review on Crown lands was received on January 13. However, neither of these reviews have been made public, denying residents an opportunity to read for themselves the direction their proposed reforms will take. Rankin pointed out that similarly, the review on social assistance conducted by the Social Policy Research Institute in support of UNICEF is yet to be published, despite having received on January 18. He added that considering the sensitivity of the issues arising from the assistance grants audit, the public will be interested to see what solutions the experts recommend. According to Rankin, it is imperative that the government considers the recommendations in the reviews, consults on them as necessary, and then gets on with delivering the necessary changes. Turning to news now from the North American diaspora. In New York, two siblings were killed in a fire at a Queens home that was caused by an e-bike battery Monday afternoon. The fire happened at a home on 46th Street in Astoria just after 2 p.m. That's according to the Fire Department of New York. The fire started in the first floor vestibule and it traveled up the stairs to the second floor. A father and his 5 children were in their home on the second floor at the time of the fire. 2 of the siblings died. The rest of the family was able to escape by jumping from the front and the rear windows. A contractor working across the street said he went outside to get something from his car and noticed children screaming from one of the smoke and fire-filled windows on the second floor. Investigators determined that a lithium-ion battery from an e-bike sparked the fire. The fire is the 59th of the year caused by a lithium-ion battery in New York. 5 people have died from these fires so far in 2023, which is already close to tying the total number of fatalities in the previous year. More than 200 fires in New York City were connected to lithium-ion batteries in 2022, resulting in 6 deaths and 147 injuries. The New York City Council passed new legislation in March to regulate lithium-ion batteries that power e-bikes. The legislation bans the sale of unregulated lithium-ion batteries in New York City. The City Council also approved a measure requiring the Fire Department of New York to educate New Yorkers about the dangers of lithium-ion batteries. The man accused of stabbing an imam during prayer at a New Jersey mosque on Sunday has pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including attempted murder. 32-year-old Serif Zorba appeared before a judge virtually from jail and spoke through an interpreter on Monday. He entered a plea of not guilty to charges of attempted murder and unlawful possession of a weapon following an incident in which he allegedly stabbed an imam during a prayer service at Omar Mosque on Getty Avenue in Patterson. Officials said the 65-year-old victim is in stable condition and is expected to be okay following the attack inside the mosque. Local and federal officials said uniformed and plainclothes police patrols will be stepped up at mosques in the city. Police will not comment on a possible motive behind the stabbing. Police believe the stabbing to be an isolated incident, saying repeatedly the mosque is safe for congregants to attend. 4 members of a close-knit Indian family who briefly called the Toronto home were mourned Monday after drowning in the frigid St. Lawrence River during a failed border crossing at Akwesasne Mohawk Nation. Speaking during a joint funeral at Etobicoke's Lotus Funeral and Cremation Center, Manali Chaudhary said her cousins Mit Kumar, 20 years old, and 23-year-old Vidbien, along with her aunt Dakshaben, 45 years old, and 49-year-old uncle Pravin Bai, were a family that was filled with love and laughter and will now forever be together. Manali said the loss of her 2 cousins is especially difficult as they are right around her age and had such a life still to live. She added that at this time her family remains shocked about their loss and isn't prepared to speak to the circumstances surrounding what has led to the tragic accident. Non-profit Humans for Harmony facilitated a ritual after being contacted by the Indian consulate in Canada as relatives were unable to afford to send the 4 bodies back home. The Chaudharys will be cremated in the coming days and their ashes will be returned to India. Speaking during the service, the organization's president Don Patel said the family, like many, came to Canada with dreams of bettering their lives. Still in Canada, a Toronto man says he purchased a 2020 Ford F-150 truck from a dealership last summer that turned out to be stolen. Derek Crocker told CTV News in Toronto that he bought a truck from a Mazda dealership in the Toronto area for about 60,000 Canadian dollars last June. 6 months later, he got into an accident when the truck was being repaired at the body shop. Crocker said the wrong replacement parts were constantly being ordered. Further investigation revealed Crocker's truck was reported stolen in Durham region and that its vehicle identification number VIN had been changed so it could be used as an unsuspecting trade-in at the dealership. Once the truck was shown to be stolen, it had to be returned to the original owner's insurance company, and Crocker no longer had a pickup truck. Sandra Lemaitre with Mazda Canada's Public Affairs and Corporate Communications Office said it was an unfortunate situation and that Mazda was reviewing its process. According to Lemaitre, the dealership had no idea it was selling a stolen vehicle. She says the vehicle identification number was cloned. Mazda Canada said the dealership refunded the entire cost of the vehicle to Crocker, including past loan payments, and provided him with a loaner vehicle. The Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, which oversees vehicle sales in Ontario, said consumers had another layer of protection to their vehicle, new or used, if they purchase it from an OMVIC registered dealer. And now we go to the BBC World Service for the latest bulletin of international news.
Hello, I'm Emily Thomas with the BBC News. At least 50 people are thought to have been killed in an airstrike in Myanmar, in an area where there's been resistance to the military government. Survivors say the armed forces dropped a bomb on the village of Poziji in Sagaing region before firing on those below from a helicopter. Here's Jonathan Head.
Poziji had been unusually crowded, with people from nearby communities attending a ceremony to mark the opening of a new local administration office, loyal to the opposition, not to the military government. That is almost certainly why it was attacked. Frustrated by the failure of its troops to regain control of much of the country, the junta has increasingly been relying on its Russian and Chinese aircraft to bomb opposition villages, causing much higher civilian casualties. Those running their own schools and clinics in defiance of the military or with strong local militias have been particular targets.
The United States and the Philippines have launched their largest ever joint military exercise at a time of growing Chinese assertiveness across the region. The 2-week drill in the Philippines will involve nearly 18,000 troops. They'll practice retaking an island with amphibious forces and will simulate an attack on a warship in the South China Sea. Switzerland's President Alain Berset has told an emergency session of the federal parliament that the government had no choice but to order the takeover of one of the world's biggest banks, Credit Suisse. It was forced into a merger with its rival UBS when Credit Suisse was about to fail. Imogen Folks is in Bern.
Members of Parliament have many questions for Switzerland's government. What's the future of the Swiss financial sector now that one of its 2 biggest banks is gone? And how will the estimated 35,000 Credit Suisse employees likely to lose their jobs be supported? Parliament can't save Credit Suisse, but members can demand even tougher banking laws, an end to bankers' bonuses, and an undertaking from the government that a financial meltdown like Credit Suisse's never happens again.
Britain's main business lobby group, the CBI, has dismissed its Director General, Tony Danker, following an inquiry into allegations of workplace misconduct. It's called the accusations devastating. Mr Danker is not himself the subject of a series of complaints of sexual misconduct. Emma Simpson has the details.
Tony Danker was the boss of one of the most influential business groups in the UK, representing the biggest names in corporate Britain. He has been under investigation since complaints of workplace misconduct was made against him. The investigation has determined that his own conduct fell short of that expected of the Director General.
World News from the BBC. The United Nations says it's being forced into making an appalling choice on whether to continue its operations in Afghanistan after the Taliban banned women from working for the organisation there. The UN's mission in Afghanistan said it was conflicted between staying and delivering support to the Afghan people and standing by its principles on women's rights. Interest rates in major economies are expected to return to pre-pandemic levels, according to a new forecast from the International Monetary Fund. It said increases in borrowing costs were unlikely to be a permanent shift in the global financial climate and would fall once inflation was brought under control. Central banks across the world have been lifting interest rates to combat price rises. An Egyptian official has described as utterly baseless claims in leaked Pentagon documents that Cairo planned to secretly produce and supply Russia with 40,000 rockets. The denial was carried by several pro-government news channels. The documents were obtained by the Washington Post newspaper from a leaked trove of US Defense Department papers. 2 people are missing in southern Israel after floods caused by torrential rain. 60 people have been rescued since heavy downpours and high winds on Monday caused rivers to overflow, blocking several major roads. Some police officers were swept away in their vehicles. The British government has announced plans to give 1 million smokers e-cigarette starter kits to help them quit. The scheme also includes incentive payments for pregnant women to stop smoking. Yatunde Yusuf reports.
It's been described by ministers as a world first to get the nation smoke-free by 2030. The Swap to Stop scheme will encourage people to exchange cigarettes for vapes, with starter kits offered to nearly 1 million smokers across England. Pregnant women will be given behavioural support and financial incentives in the form of vouchers.
BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
Now to end the news, a recap of the highlights. An international relations professor is recommending that Guyana be more strategic and offer neighboring Brazil an oil block as part of its border strategy. A woman has been arrested in connection with her alleged desire to see Guyana's President Irfaan Ali assassinated. The Guyana Olympic Association has condemned the Amateur Athletics Association of Guyana for embarrassing the country at the Carifta Games now underway in the Bahamas. And regionally, Haiti's Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry has described as barbaric acts the murders of 3 police officers on Sunday by members of the Temacak gang during an ambush. The British Virgin Islands governor is threatening to publish a number of reviews arising out of the Commission of Inquiry that the current government has withheld from the public for months. And in the North American diaspora in New York, 2 siblings were killed in a fire at the Queen's home that was caused by an e-bike battery Monday afternoon. And 4 members of a close-knit Indian family who briefly called Toronto their home were mourned on Monday after drowning in the frigid St. Lawrence River during a failed border crossing at Akwesasne, Mohawk Nation. And that's the end of the news that came to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.